Hey there. It's heavy stuff we're diving into today.
Yeah,
You requested a deep dive on the recent tourist deaths in Vang Vieng, Laos, and
it's a tough one.
it is a tough one. Picture this. You're backpacking through Southeast Asia. You find yourself in this idyllic town, tubing down a river with breathtaking scenery. Sounds like paradise.
It does.
But lately, it's been overshadowed by tragedy.
Right.
Multiple tourists have died, including 2 Australian teenagers,
Yeah,
and it all seems to trace back to something they drank.
that's right.
Oh.
It's a stark reminder that even in the most beautiful places, hidden dangers can lurk.
Yeah.
And in this case, it's something most people wouldn't even think twice about, the
Exactly.
type of alcohol they're consuming.
Yeah, the news keeps mentioning methanol poisoning. To be honest, that sounds pretty scary, but I'm not even sure what methanol is.
Okay,
Can you break that down for us?
absolutely. You're probably familiar with ethanol. That's the alcohol in beer, wine, and spirits.
Right.
Methanol is like its chemical cousin, but with one crucial difference. It's incredibly toxic to humans.
Oh, wow.
We're talking about the kind of stuff found in antifreeze and embalming fluid.
Okay, that definitely doesn't sound like something you want to be sipping on.
No.
So what makes methanol so dangerous compared to the ethanol we're used to?
It all comes down to how our bodies process it.
Okay.
With regular alcohol, our systems break it down into less harmful substances.
Right.
But with methanol, it's a different story.
Yeah.
It gets converted into some seriously bad stuff, like formic acid. The same stuff that makes ant bites so painful.
Ouch, I can feel that burning sensation just thinking about it.
Yeah,
So instead of getting a buzz, you're basically getting poisoned from the inside out.
exactly. This formic acid wreaks havoc on your body,
Wow.
especially your cell's ability to produce energy.
Okay.
It can lead to a whole cascade of horrifying symptoms: nausea, vomiting, blindness, coma,
Oh my goodness.
and in many cases, death.
This is way more serious than I initially realized.
It is?
It's unsettling to think that something as simple as a drink
Yeah,
could have such devastating consequences.
absolutely.
So why is this happening in a tourist hotspot like Vang Vieng?
Right.
It seems so out of place.
That's where the context of Laos becomes really important.
Okay.
It's a developing nation where tourism plays a massive role in the economy.
Right.
Unfortunately, in some areas, law enforcement and regulations aren't as strict,
Uh-huh.
which creates opportunities for things to slip through the cracks.
So are we talking about people deliberately putting methanol in drinks?
Sadly, sometimes. Yes.
Wow.
Unscrupulous producers might add it to boost the alcohol content cheaply.
Right.
It's a way to cut corners and increase profits, but the consequences can be deadly.
That's just awful.
Yeah,
But I also read that homebrewed liquor might be a factor here.
you're right. Homebrewing is very common in this region.
Okay.
And while many people do it safely, there's always a risk. Without the proper knowledge and equipment, methanol can accidentally be produced during the fermentation process.
Wait a minute. Didn't Vang Vieng used to have a reputation for being a bit of a party town?
You got a good memory.
Thanks.
Back in the early 2000s, it was known for its wild backpacker scene, with tubing and bars galore.
Right.
Sadly, there were quite a few accidents and even deaths back then, too.
So even though the government tried to clean things up in 2011,
Yeah,
it seems like some of those dangers might still be lingering beneath the surface.
it's possible.
It's like this dark undercurrent running through paradise.
Yeah.
Do we know exactly what happened to those Australian teenagers?
Unfortunately, the details are still unclear.
Hmm.
We know they died from suspected methanol poisoning, likely from drinks they had in Vang Vieng.
Right.
There's an ongoing investigation, and the manager of their hostel has been detained, but we're still waiting for more information to come to light.
Okay.
It's a tragic situation, and it raises so many questions about traveler safety, especially when it comes to something as seemingly innocuous as having a drink.
It's incredibly unsettling to think about. It's like
Yeah.
this hidden danger, and you wouldn't even know it until it's too late.
Right.
So if this methanol is so dangerous, are there any clear signs that a drink might be contaminated?
That's a great question. And unfortunately, it's not always easy to tell.
Oh, no.
Methanol doesn't have a distinct smell or taste that sets it apart from regular alcohol.
Oh, wow.
That's what makes it so insidious.
Okay.
However, there are a few things you can watch out for. One red flag is if a drink tastes unusually bitter or has a strong chemical-like flavor.
Okay.
That could be a sign that something's not right.
Right.
But honestly, the most important thing is to trust your gut.
Uh-huh.
If something feels off about a place, the atmosphere, or the drinks being served,
Yeah.
it's better to err on the side of caution and just walk away.
It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of travel,
Right.
wanting to try new things and maybe letting your guard down a little. But this situation really highlights how important it is to stay vigilant, even when you're in a supposedly safe tourist destination.
Absolutely.
What are some practical steps travelers can take to minimize their risk when it comes to alcohol?
The first and most crucial piece of advice is to stick to reputable, licensed establishments.
Oh, okay.
Think about it. Would you buy food from a street vendor with questionable hygiene?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Yeah.
The same principle applies to alcohol.
Right.
If a place looks dodgy or if the drinks are suspiciously cheap,
Yeah.
there's a reason for that.
So maybe skip that sketchy-looking roadside bar offering cocktails for $1.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's just not worth the risk.
Good to know.
And be particularly wary of home-brewed alcohol, even if it's presented as a local specialty or a way to experience the authentic culture.
Yeah, I can see that.
Remember, you have no way of knowing what went into making that drink or how safe it is.
So much of travel is about immersing yourself in the local culture.
Yes.
And sometimes that includes trying the local drinks.
Right.
But it sounds like it's essential to balance that desire for experience with a healthy dose of caution.
I think that's wise.
Is there anything else travelers can do to be proactive?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Before you even set foot in a new country, do your research.
All right.
Check travel advisories from your government and browse online forums and travel blogs for information specific to your destination.
That's a good idea.
Real people sharing their experiences can be incredibly valuable.
Yeah.
You might learn about particular areas or establishments to avoid, or brands that are known to be safer.
It's like a pre-trip safety checklist for your liver.
I like that.
But let's say you've done your research, you're at a bar, and you get offered a drink that you're just not sure about. What's the best way to handle that situation?
Don't be afraid to be assertive.
Okay.
You always have the right to politely decline a drink without feeling obligated to explain yourself.
Right.
A simple no thank you is
Yeah.
perfectly acceptable.
Yeah.
Remember, your safety and well-being are paramount.
It's easy to feel pressured to be polite and not offend anyone, especially in a different culture.
Yeah,
But it's crucial to remember that your health is your priority.
absolutely.
What if you're in a situation where you feel really uncomfortable, like you see something that seems off or dangerous? Should you just stay quiet, or is there something you can do?
If you witness something suspicious, like a bar that seems to be serving contaminated alcohol or engaging in illegal activities,
Okay.
don't hesitate to report it to the local authorities or your embassy.
Yeah.
You could potentially be saving yourself and others from harm.
It's about being an active bystander, not just turning a blind eye.
I agree.
But even with all the precautions in the world, there's still a chance that someone could unknowingly consume methanol.
Right.
What should you do if you or someone you're traveling with starts experiencing symptoms of methanol poisoning?
The most important thing is to seek medical attention immediately.
Okay.
Don't wait, don't try to tough it out, and don't self-treat. The sooner you get to a hospital, the better the chances of a positive outcome. Early intervention is absolutely crucial when it comes to methanol poisoning.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation.
Yeah.
It's clear that while travel can be an amazing experience, it's essential to be aware of the potential risks, even those that might seem hidden.
Right.
But focusing on the individual traveler,
Right.
while important, only paints part of the picture.
Yes.
What about the bigger picture? What responsibility do the authorities in these tourist destinations have in preventing tragedies like this from happening?
That's a critical question.
Yeah.
While travelers have a responsibility to be informed and make safe choices,
Right.
the ultimate responsibility for ensuring the safety of both citizens and visitors lies with governments and law enforcement agencies.
The articles we've looked at suggest that law enforcement can be somewhat relaxed in certain tourist areas.
Yeah.
What steps can be taken to strengthen regulations and make things safer for everyone?
For starters, there needs to be stricter regulation of the alcohol industry,
Okay.
especially when it comes to local breweries and distilleries.
Right.
This means implementing regular inspections, enforcing licensing requirements,
Yeah.
and setting and upholding strict quality control measures. It's about creating a system where safety and accountability are paramount.
And what about those who are knowingly producing or selling contaminated alcohol for profit? What kind of consequences should they face?
There should be absolutely zero tolerance for such reckless and dangerous practices.
Right.
We need to see severe penalties, including hefty fines and imprisonment,
Okay.
to deter anyone from even considering putting profits ahead of people's lives.
I think another crucial piece of the puzzle is education.
Yeah.
We've talked about educating tourists, but it's equally important to educate local producers and vendors about the dangers of methanol and the importance of safe production practices.
We're absolutely right.
Okay.
Raising awareness at every level is essential.
Right.
We need comprehensive training programs for producers, public awareness campaigns that reach a wide audience,
Yeah.
and targeted information dissemination through local channels.
Oh, yeah.
It's about building a culture of safety and responsibility from the ground up.
It's a multifaceted problem that requires a multifaceted solution.
I agree.
It's about travelers being responsible, governments stepping up enforcement, and communities working together to create a safer environment for everyone.
That's right.
This situation with those Australian teenagers in Vang Vieng is a harsh wake-up call,
Yes,
but it also presents an opportunity for positive change.
exactly.
Yeah.
This tragedy underscores the need for a more holistic approach to tourism,
Yeah.
one where safety is not an afterthought, but an integral part of the experience.
Right.
It's about fostering a sense of shared responsibility, where tourists, local communities, and governments all work together to create a truly safe and enjoyable travel experience.
We've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
From the terrifying science of methanol poisoning to the very real and complex issues surrounding tourist safety and the responsibilities of different stakeholders.
It's a lot to think about.
But there's one crucial aspect we haven't touched upon yet, the aftermath.
Okay.
What happens after the headlines fade and the initial shock subsides?
Yeah.
What about the victims, their families, and the long-term consequences they might face?
That's an incredibly important question, and one that often gets overlooked in the immediacy of these tragedies.
Right.
The impact on the victims and their families extends far beyond the initial event. It can be a long and difficult road to recovery, both physically and emotionally.
It's heartbreaking to think about what those Australian teenagers' families must be going through.
It is.
Losing a child is an unimaginable tragedy,
Yeah.
made even worse by the fact that it happens so far from home
Right.
and under such preventable circumstances.
Absolutely.
And we can't forget about those who might survive methanol poisoning, but are left with life-altering consequences like vision loss.
That's right. The physical and emotional scars of methanol poisoning can be incredibly deep and long-lasting.
Yeah.
Some people experience permanent damage to their nervous system, leading to chronic pain, difficulty moving, or even cognitive impairment.
Wow.
And then there's the psychological trauma, the fear, the anxiety, and the guilt
Oh,
that can linger long after the physical symptoms have subsided.
The articles mention that the authorities in Laos are investigating these deaths and that the hostel manager where the Australian teenagers were staying has been detained.
Right.
But what does justice truly look like in a case like this? Is it enough to simply punish the individual who might have served the contaminated drinks?
That's a complex question.
Yeah.
While holding individuals accountable is important,
Okay.
it's crucial to recognize that this issue goes far beyond any one bartender or business owner.
Right.
Remember, we've talked about poverty, lack of regulation,
Yeah.
and the widespread availability of bootleg alcohol.
Uh-huh.
These systemic factors create an environment where these tragedies are more likely to occur.
So true justice would involve addressing those underlying issues
Yeah.
and working to prevent similar incidents from happening in the future.
Exactly. It's about creating a system where safety is prioritized, regulations are enforced,
Right.
and communities are empowered to make responsible choices.
Okay.
It's about shifting the focus from blame to prevention.
And what about the victims and their families?
Yeah.
What kind of support is available to help them cope with the trauma and navigate the long road to recovery?
There are some incredible organizations like the World Health Organization and Doctors Without Borders that are doing crucial work in this area.
Oh, good.
They provide medical care, psychological support,
Yeah.
and legal advocacy for victims of methanol poisoning and their families.
Okay.
They also work to raise awareness about this issue and push for policy changes that can prevent future tragedies.
It's reassuring to know that there are people and organizations dedicated to helping those affected by this issue.
Yeah. It's a stark reminder that these aren't just isolated incidents. They're part of a larger global problem
Right.
that requires a coordinated response.
You're absolutely right.
Okay.
We need international cooperation, data sharing,
Yeah.
and a unified effort to address the root causes of methanol poisoning.
Okay.
This includes working with local governments to strengthen regulations, supporting community education programs, and providing resources for victims and their families.
And as travelers, we can play a role too.
Absolutely.
Right.
We can support those organizations working to make a difference, donate to their causes, volunteer our time, or simply spread awareness about this issue within our own networks.
It's amazing how this deep dive started with a simple question: what is methanol?
Right.
And has unfolded into such a multifaceted exploration.
It really has.
We've delved into the science, the economics, the social dynamics, the ethics, and the shared responsibility we all have in addressing this issue.
That's the beauty of a deep dive.
It allows us to go beyond the surface, connect the dots, and gain a deeper understanding of the complex issues shaping our world.
And while the topic we've explored today is undeniably heavy and heartbreaking,
Yeah,
it's also empowering.
Uh-huh.
The more we know, the more we understand,
absolutely.
and the better equipped we are to make a difference.
Knowledge is power. And with that power comes the responsibility to act,
Yeah.
to protect ourselves and others,
Yeah.
and to advocate for a safer and more just world.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I hope you'll walk away with a heightened awareness of the potential risks associated with alcohol consumption,
Yeah,
especially when traveling.
absolutely.
Remember, it's okay to be cautious, to ask questions, and to prioritize your safety above all else.
I agree.
And remember that we can all play a part in creating a world where tragedies like the one in Vang Vieng become a thing of the past.
That's a great message.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.